everyone, Daljeet Peterson here from astrolab21.com. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Pisces season 2021. Now, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently with this video as in past videos. As I've been talking about, I have a new setup here. I'm allowed to share my screen and we can look at the charts together. Typically, I've been doing this where I sort of just talk at you guys for a half hour, 45 minutes. I think this is going to help us to learn and absorb some of this information in a little bit more a visual way for sure, and hopefully help you guys out there who are learning astrology, who want to get deeper into it, to really start to learn to speak the language of astrology, which is a visual, symbolic language. So, you know, what we'll do is we'll pull up the chart and then I'm going to go through, we'll just go through the entire month to come, what the planets are doing, what some of these configurations look like, and hopefully it'll give you a better guidance for how to navigate this month to come, this Pisces season 2021. But before we jump into that, we should probably just talk a little bit about Pisces season in general and what does that mean, all right? Because, you know, this happens this time of year every year. This is part of the annual cycle, the solar cycle of life on Earth. Every year between, you know, mid-February and mid-March, the sun moves through the sign of Pisces. It spends a month moving through that sign. And it's part of our seasonal rhythm of life on Earth, right? This represents the third and final phase of the winter season. Pisces is the last phase of winter, right? And it ends with the spring equinox, as we will move into Aries at the end of this month. And that starts a new solar year, a new astrological year, right? Because Pisces is the 12th sign. It's 12 of 12. This is the last sign of the zodiac, which means it's a really very complex and heavy sign in many ways. I think Pisces as an archetype is really one of the more difficult concepts and signs to really wrap your brain around, because for one reason it's bigger than what we can wrap our brain around. It's transpersonal. It's unconscious. It defies logic. It requires really magical thinking to really comprehend. We have to sort of put our conscious mind aside and allow ourselves to really go deep in order to get into Pisces. So that's going to be a theme for us collectively this time of year every year, as the sun shines its light, brings our focus to this sign, this archetype for the next month. And it's essentially like, you know, the sun makes its journey around the zodiac. Really, it's us on Earth moving around the sun, but from our perspective, from this geocentric perspective, which is what astrology is, what we see in the sky is the sun progressively moving around the zodiac throughout the calendar year. So what's going on with Pisces season? Well, we're finishing Aquarius season 2021, right? For the last month, we've had the sun moving through Aquarius, which is a fixed air sign, right? It's been all about our mental attitudes, our thinking, our higher thinking, right? It's ruled by Uranus, the great rebellious, creative genius that wants to just download higher knowledge and information in a sudden, inspiring way. Well, now we move into Pisces, which is a mutable water sign. So now we're getting into the emotions, our feelings. We're moving out of the head and into the heart. That's kind of one of the motifs that we are called to experience in this transition every year at this time, as we move from Aquarius into Pisces. And also we move from Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, to Neptune, which rules Pisces. This is quite a different transition as well. Again, from the head to the heart, from thinking to emotions. So we can expect to feel that transition in a subtle way and to shift our focus. And this is a natural part of the evolutionary process based on the solar year and just based on the rhythm of life on the planet, right? So we're in Pisces season. Now, let's bring up the chart and we can start to look at what's going on here. So, sorry, there we go. So here we are. I've got the Sky Now chart up, which is telling us what everything looks like here on February 17th at 9:30 here in California. And we can see the sun still in that last degree of Aquarius, ready to make the move into the sign of Pisces. And, you know, Aquarius has been a major theme for us in the last couple months. You know, we had the great conjunction in December where we had Saturn and Jupiter conjoin in the first degree of Aquarius and really setting the tone for this cycle that we've just begun, this 20-year cycle. It's a 200-year cycle, pretty major event astrologically, and we're feeling it culturally. I think this is a very special time on this planet. I don't think anyone could argue with that at this point. Something major is going on. We are really in the midst of a shift, and it's this shift into a new age. We are certainly moving into a Aquarian cycle, if not an Aquarian era or even an Aquarian age. I think all of these things are starting to line up in a way, and this is the gift of astrology. It allows us to align with these great cycles that are unfolding and to hook up our own energy to the patterns unfolding and really make the most of the cosmic configuration and what's being presented to us at this time, the opportunities, right? So this last month, this Aquarius season 2021, as I talked about in the last video, expected to be a pretty intense month. And we had a lot going on during that month. It began with the inauguration. That Capricorn season ended, sort of put the button on 2020 in a lot of ways with that Capricorn energy. But now we're starting to move forward. And I think what we can see for the rest of 2021 is there's going to be a little bit of easing of the intensity that we've experienced really for the last year or so. So it's, you know, I think a lot of us are looking for some glimmers of hope on the horizon. And I think what the planets are showing us is that it's going to give us a little bit of a break. It's going to allow us to sort of ease up a little bit. But I'm just going to move forward one day here, so then we'll see the sun bounce over to 0 degrees Pisces. So tomorrow will be the beginning of Pisces season, the beginning of the sun's, you know, month-long journey through the 12th sign of the zodiac, Pisces. As I said, the last sign before it will come to Aries at the end of the month in the spring equinox. And of course, we could bounce ahead 1 month and see what happens there, right? Everything will be moving forward. But where it stands right now is, you know, this is the beginning of this next cycle that we're going to look at. And something that's very interesting about the planetary configurations going on right now, if you can observe that all of the planets are on one side of the solar system from our perspective here on Earth, so to speak, bound in by the nodes, but you've got Pluto over here in Capricorn coming all the way through to Mars in Taurus right now, right? They're in one half of the sky, which is really interesting. It means that no planets are in opposition right now and won't be for a good period of time. I mean, for the course of this month, really it's only going to be the moon and maybe Mars might get out to an opposition with Pluto by the end of the month. But that's a really interesting configuration. What we have is a lot of this square energy and a lot of trines and sextiles. but it's a very tight formation. And I've talked about this a little bit, again, in the past videos that we've done on the new moon in Aquarius that I just did, and talking about Uranus and Taurus and the Saturn square to Uranus, which I'll talk a little bit about in this video because it is important. I'm working on another video for that, a little longer one. I know I've been promising that, but it's coming, honestly. I hope to have it by now, but just been a little busy with my day job, unfortunately. So back to the chart here. So as the moon, as the sun moves into Pisces, we can still tell there's a lot of this Aquarius energy that is trailing behind. You know, we still have Jupiter and Saturn. We've got Venus and Mercury, right? And Mercury retrograding through the sign of Aquarius. So we're still, even though the sun has moved on and is ready to start wearing the sign of Pisces, to start moving from the head to the heart, it's going to be a while before the rest of the gang starts to come with, right? And it'll take another month before I think Venus and Mercury join up with the sun. Again, if we look ahead a month, because Mercury's been retrograde, it's going to take us a while to catch up with the sun again. By next month, Venus will have come back with the sun, and I think it's going to take until Taurus season here before all three of them are together again. So, so we still have a lot of that Aquarius energy that was instigated by that really powerful new moon last week, and will continue to really be influential, right? And of course, we highlighted the fact that it's all of these planets are still squaring all of our planets over here in Taurus. And it's interesting what's happened since that new moon, where we had the sun and the moon over here in Aquarius at the new moon. Now the moon has come up and joined with Uranus and Mars over here in Taurus to add more of this square energy. It's a really powerful start to Pisces season 2021 will be an intensifying of this square that we talked about between fixed air Aquarius and fixed earth Taurus. You know, we talked about, you know, Aquarius being our gift that we give back to society, and Taurus being what we value, our possessions, our resources, our money and financial systems. And of course, that's why a lot has been going on in the stock market of late with GameStop and the dog coins and all of these crazy things. We've been talking about this. This is going to be a crazy year in the financial markets. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And, you know, tomorrow, while the sun moves into into Pisces, this square between Saturn and Uranus will become exact at 7 degrees. Right, so this is the first of 3 exact squares that's going to take place over the course of 2021. And I would expect there's going to be something big may happen in the stock market tomorrow, or in the financial world in general. Something sudden, right? You've got the sudden energy of Uranus coming in with the very stable energy of Saturn, right? And because it's in Taurus, we think of finance, the financial markets. We also think of the earth. We can think of, you know, this is the classic signature for earthquakes and volcanoes and sudden eruptions in the earth, right? Uranus in Taurus. And we've already been seeing a lot of seismic activity lately. We're seeing earthquakes throughout Japan and Indonesia. We're seeing activities in volcanoes. So I would expect that could be a theme in the environment for much of 2021 through this configuration. And this square tends to sort of stimulate that kind of energy. So whether it shows up physically in the world, whether it's going to show up in our financial systems, in our social and cultural world, we can expect some volatility, some intensity, some shaking up of the structure, of the norms. Saturn, right? Saturn trying to control and contain everything is going to come under intense conflict with Uranus's urge to liberate us from that containment of Saturn, right? Condition, right? Saturn conditions us. It's how we are conditioned by our family, our culture, our education, right? All those things condition how we participate and show up. Uranus comes in and tries to decondition us from all of that, wants to break through that conditioning so that we can deeply explore ourselves as individuals. So that's a major theme for this month, Pisces season, but it's also going to be a major theme for the entire year of 2021. So it's something that you just want to be conscious of, and it's going to show up, in the world. It's going to show up in the environment, but it's also going to be showing up within each one of us on an individual level. And we're going to feel these conflicts most likely between what does society expect of us? What does our family of origin expect of us, right? What does our peer group, right, Aquarius, expect of us? What are the rules of engagement around how to behave and how to participate? And we're going to have this urge, these desires to liberate from some of those conditioning patterns. We're really getting an opportunity to go deeper into our own personal evolution, our personal journey of self-discovery, of what Carl Jung called individuation, that process of becoming ourselves. And with the moon moving in here, obviously we're getting another doubling down, if you will, of the Taurus side of this square. It's really bringing that Aquarius energy that it started with in the cycle and giving us a chance to reflect more deeply, right? And you see the moon is going to come into a conjunction with Mars, so it's going to be a very energized start to this Pisces month. This Pisces season starts off with Mars and the moon in Taurus. Very invigorated sense of an embodiment. We really want to be invigorated. We want to be active physically. We want to engage our bodies, exercise or workout or anything that gets us in grounding with the earth, with Taurus, with nature, with our sensuality, with our sexuality. Will probably be, it's a rather pesky, horny kind of configuration, if you will. So if you feel that little twinkle in the eye, in the next couple of days, you'll know why. It's that moon, Mars in Taurus, really stimulating our senses, our sensuality. Now, if we want to look through what we can expect over the course of this month, we can just kind of go through day by day here and see how the energies are going to start to shift. Like, again, we have Mercury that's retrograde. It's going to come close to Saturn. If we go a few days back, never quite get there. Well, that's important. Mercury is stationing direct on February 21st. So that's going to be a very palpable shift. You see it's right there in between Saturn and Jupiter. Very interesting spot there. This retrograde Mercury, we've been spending the last 3 weeks, right, in retreat, going over, reviewing, maybe opening and revisiting old projects. Not a time to have started anything new. We don't want to start any new ventures during a Mercury retrograde period. We don't want to sign any contracts. We don't want to buy electronics if we can avoid it. You don't want to schedule any surgeries or dental appointments during a Mercury retrograde. But hopefully we've spent this last 3 weeks going back over, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, maybe pulling some old projects out. And then on the 21st, as Mercury stations direct and we'll start to move forward again, we'll start to get some momentum again in our energy, particularly our mental energy, right? Our thinking, our communication, our expression, all those Mercury-ruled things. And Mercury is now kind of hanging out with, that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that has really set the tone for this year in particular. It's set the tone for the next couple years, set the tone for the next 20 years, setting the tone for the next 200 years. So this is a nice way of getting our minds connected to this bigger social picture that Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius is really trying to expose to us, is trying to present to us, wants us to consider and participate in, right? These big social changes, which are taking place on the world stage for sure, on our national stage, but certainly for each one of us within ourselves, within our communities, right? There's some big shift that's occurring in how we show up and relate to our peer group, our social networks, right? This is all 11th house Aquarius type of qualities. So again, even though we're moving through Pisces, the focus remains on Aquarius in a lot of ways, all right? And the moon will start to move into a trine here, as we can see, with Venus, which is a really nice aspect. This air trine with the moon in Gemini, trining Venus in Aquarius. So really a softening, if you will, and a chance to really get in touch with our emotions, our relationships, the beauty in the world, the beauty in ourselves, the beauty in the people around us, right? All of our relationships. Really appreciate everyone around you. It'll be a good day to call friends or text them and just tell them you care about them, you love them, you miss them, you respect them. You might have that urge to share and connect and communicate in that way. So as I said, now the moon is going to start to move into, it gets to this in conjunct here by the 22nd. Wanted to get to the first opposition. I think that's going to be an interesting point in the month here as the moon gets to an opposition in Leo with what we just talked about, Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn, right? We see this opposition here. And that will certainly be a real focus during this, another week from now, on the 25th here of February. Now this new moon, or this full moon, or not quite full, but it'd be a gibbous moon, but that energy that it began with when it was new here in Aquarius is now coming into reflection of fullness, having spent this half of its cycle now reflecting on that really powerful new moon in Aquarius that we had last week. So expect around the 25th to really get your first download of what we set as an intention during the new moon, right? Moon in Leo, the opposite of Aquarius, right? So there's this harnessing of a certain creative power, a self-expression, a theatricality, if you will, that's going to reflect this very innovative, forward-thinking, community-based energy that we've experiencing with all of this Aquarius energy. So this will be a real key point in the month, so maybe look out for that. Pay attention to what's going on there. And then we'll get to around, on the 26th, yeah. So the next day you'll get that full moon. We'll have the full moon will actually take place in Virgo as it moves into Virgo, and it's going to be full and in opposition to now both the Sun and Venus, because by then the Venus will have moved into Pisces itself, and now we'll really start to feel a little more of that Pisces energy coming in. As Venus comes in to join the Sun, this full moon will activate the Pisces energy of the month for us. And so we're getting this Pisces Virgo access, right? What's that all about? Anything Virgo, it's Mercury ruled. It wants to get into the details. It's critical for a reason. It's not critical, it's constructive criticism, right? Because it does want to improve. It's all about connecting and helping and being of service. So this will be a very stimulating, compassionate type of full moon. We'll really be moved to really care for ourselves, our own well-being, and caring for others, right? That's Pisces, and that's what this axis is. This Pisces Virgo axis is really about service, about going deeper within ourselves and going deeper within our relationships to everyone else around us. And with Venus here taking part in this new moon, or this full moon, I should say, just softens it even more. We're just going to get much more of that softer, more fantastical, sort of Neptunian, and we'll talk about that a little bit, side of Pisces. I really just expect this to be one of the more pleasant periods that we've had in a while. But it could also be if it depends on where you are, right? For anyone who has been a little lost of late, and I know a lot of our brothers and sisters out there have really struggled and suffered in the last few years and have really lost their way. Gone down some pretty crazy rabbit holes, and it's really quite tragic. And I think that speaks to the greater issue of Neptune and Pisces, which is a subject for another video. But so this could be a beginning of a reflection, of a wake up for some people, to start to, it's as if you're waking up from a bad or long dream. Like, what just happened? How did I get here? So there could be some of that energy. It also could lend itself to going deeper down that rabbit hole too. So as always, these archetypes can go either way, but just something to be really aware of and sensitive. Be aware of where you may be being deceived, where you may be self-deceiving, where you may be deluding yourself, right? This Venus in Pisces can have some of that quality. We kind of, we want to maybe overindulge a little bit. This could be one of those full moons where we want to tie one on, right? You might want to get ripping drunk and have wild sex and just explore the Venusian side of life and get lost in the depth of, deeply relating, or your creative process, or just your fantasy world could be heavily stimulated. Certainly with this new moon, or this full moon rather, that Virgo practicality will hopefully balance that out for us. And we can see this trine aspect coming to the south node from Mercury and Jupiter. Mercury now starting to move forward, and it'll go back to conjunct Jupiter a second time. When it happened last time, and a couple weeks ago, it was retrograde. Now it's moving forward. So again, there's something, as Mercury moves forward this month, an opportunity to start taking all these ideas that we've been reviewing over the last 3 weeks and start to put them back into process, into motion. There'll be a sense of forward momentum on projects, on ideas, on our thinking, our thought process. And as Mercury will come closer to Jupiter over the next couple of days here towards the end of the month, you're going to get that sense of some breakthrough probably likely is going to happen. Once, as it's now here within, I'm trying to get it to exact, looks like March 4th, we'll get an exact conjunction of Mercury and Jupiter. So big ideas, be open to the opportunities too. Jupiter represents opportunity. People coming into our lives who are generous, who have something to offer, right? This is a great time to share your ideas, to think big, think of the bigger picture, especially being in Aquarius. This is a big picture type of configuration. And we'll also see that the moon is going to come into a opposition with Mars. And again, what we said, right? Only the moon, as it moves through this part of the sky, is going to form any kind of oppositions all month. And so here it is opposing Mars in Gemini, and it'll come into exact, at some point during that day, it'll move into Sagittarius and be in exact opposition. Of course, what is this? This shows us something else happening later in the month. Mars will ingress or move into Gemini. So this will be another palpable shift that we'll feel energetically, we'll feel physically, because Mars is it's the action, it's our action hero. It's how we do, it's how we show up, it's how we express ourselves. It's our energy, our enthusiasm, our sexuality. Anything that takes action, Mars is our guy. So again, a shift of energy from this time it's been spending in Taurus, in Earth. A little tougher, actually, not the best place for Mars. I think Mars you'll feel a little bit more enthusiasm, a little bit more energy. Certainly a mental energy will be stimulated. So having had this Mercury Jupiter conjunction here in Aquarius, now we're getting the moon or the Mars coming into another air sign. A lot of mental energy moving into the later part of this month. Of course, that opposition, the moon will just reflect that new, that transition, that new energy, that move into Gemini for Mars. If we keep going ahead, Moon will come into conjunction with the South Node in Sagittarius, and then make its last quarter square to what's now starting to show up as a stellium in Pisces. And this is something that, as the month moves on, as the Sun and Venus both start to move towards Neptune, this is going to be this is where the wake up from the dream is really going to happen for a lot of us. It's going to be a real, let's just move to that. I'm trying to get to, okay, so March 10th, as we see, Sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces with Venus within 4 degrees of that conjunction. Now, Neptune's been in Pisces since, I believe, 2012. This is a long transit. It takes an average of about 14 years to move through every sign. And of course, Neptune rules Pisces. So this is a time when it's in its own sign. And so this is a really interesting era that we're in, this Neptune and Pisces era. And I think a lot of the delusional thinking that we've witnessed, certainly in this whole time, really, but has really started to peak for us in the last few years. I think a lot of that is, or might have something to do with Neptune and Pisces. So as the Sun comes around and makes its annual conjunction with Neptune, it feels like this is I think a lot of people may sense of a waking up from a walking dream. That I think a lot of the people who were involved in a lot of these very deep conspiracy theories might have a bit of a wake-up call and kind of just go, oh, what was that? And maybe just feel like they're in a cloud. You're confused, and that feeling when you first wake up from a very deep sleep, right? There's that liminal stage, but we're not quite awake and we're not quite asleep, and there'll be a sense of that for all of us, really. And on the positive side, well, this is really shining a light on the bigger dream, right? Neptune in Pisces is the big dream of really being deeply connected with all of life, with source energy, with the cosmic creation, right? Being one with source. That's Neptune in Pisces. And that's, I think, what we're trying to figure out over this period. And we're still haven't gotten there yet. We've got a few more years. I think Neptune will be in Pisces through March 2025. So we've still got a couple more years, but this is really, I think, going to be an inflection point for a wake up. And what have we been hiding from? What have we been afraid to really go deep into our own emotional core and examine and put some light on? So this Sun coming in there is really going to force us to go very deep into our unconscious, right? And what is the, we can really talk a little bit more about Pisces energy. And one of the words that I like to associate with Pisces is courage. And you don't hear this word associated with Pisces very often, but it takes a great deal of courage to really go deep within yourself, to go into your depths, to get in touch with your deepest emotional core, right? And we've got a lot of, there's a lot of suppressed hurt and pain and suffering that we've forced down there into that unconscious, some early childhood traumas and past relationships and things that we're just can't handle, and we kind of keep pressing them down and pressing them down. Well, then they start to show up as shadow, right? And they start to show up in other people. So it's a really important opportunity to really go deep and reflect on some of those, do some housekeeping, right? Because that's what Pisces season is really about, essentially, is it's a time to clean house. We're going to wipe the slate clean, right? It's the end of winter, and we need to prepare for spring, right? It's a time to do some psychic spring cleaning, right? And in a way, the sun is sort of an antiseptic, right? Light, shining light on the darkness really is a healing process. And having Venus here with this configuration is really a nice opportunity. We can go a little more gently, right? We can do it in a more harmonized, beautiful way. It doesn't have to be tough love, right? This is a much kinder, gentler type of deep exploration. So take that opportunity and be aware of that. And this is sort of where the whole month, in a way, is building towards, if we want to take this in terms of Pisces season. This configuration on the 10th of March, to me, is a real culmination with that Sun-Neptune conjunction. It's really the high point of the month in a lot of ways. So we'll get Mars square the moon again as the moon is coming around. This March 12th, we start to see the moon will come in now and join this Pisces stellium, and as we move towards that new moon in Pisces, this is going to be another, much the way this one was in Aquarius. We've got a nice stellium going on here in the sign of Pisces, which will happen, it looks like on the 23rd, we'll get that new moon in Pisces at 23 degrees. Just back it up so that we can get the exact... There you go. So now you see new moon in Pisces. So those 3 or 4 days leading up to the new moon, as that sun comes into conjunction with Neptune, now we've got a new moon with this Neptune energy. Here's the chance to really, now we're setting our next intention, right? What is the next lunation going to be? What is this Pisces new moon now going to offer us over that next month? And this is a really deep emotional cleansing. I feel like, one of the notions, one of the metaphors for Pisces is the idea of the seed, right? In the entire winter season, right, if we think of this seasonally and we think about the agricultural cycle, right, which is the rhythm of life on this planet. We plant the seeds in the spring. We watch them grow over the summer. We harvest them in the fall, and then in the winter, everything dies and goes back to the soil to become humus for the seed that will then grow in the next cycle in spring. So Pisces is a real reminder of the end of the cycle, right? It's that life, death, rebirth. And it represents that literally, and it represents it metaphorically, right? So we're really always called in this time of year, the end of the year, the end of the solar year, not the calendar year, but the solar year, the agricultural year, the rhythm of the seasonal year, right? As we move towards the spring, spring equinox, and Aries, before we can get there, we need to let go and release everything from this past cycle, this past year, that we don't need to carry, okay? Because Pisces is the doorway into the next cycle. But in order to open that door, we need to close the door behind us. And as I said, it's a very small door. And it's the reason why Jesus said that a camel would have an easier time getting through the eye of a needle than a rich man would getting into the kingdom of heaven. And he's really talking about this passage from Pisces into Aries here. It's a metaphor, right? Because, we don't need all that baggage. You're not going to get through the door of Pisces into Aries with your oversized Gucci travel bags. You got to take it down to that single roll-on carry-on bag. That's how you get through. And so we really just want to shed everything that we don't need as we move forward into the new year. And really the only thing nature teaches us that we need to keep from the last cycle is the seed. It's the only thing that remains from the previous cycle so that the next cycle can be born. So sort of take that in as a metaphor for where you are in life. Pisces season is a good time for review, to go over this past year. What did you accomplish? What did you achieve? Where did you fail? What were the shortcomings? What were the hardships? What were the lessons? Consider the pleasure and the pain, the ups and the downs. Take it all in. Get the lesson, right? And let that be the seed that you take into the new year. But leave all the baggage behind. Don't try to carry that with you. You can't get there. You can't. There's not enough space, right? It's just, you'll never get through this door. You want to move through this door having cleansed, having purified, right? And this Pisces season is really, coming off of all of the energy that we've been moving through with Capricorn into Aquarius and now Pisces. We are really starting to ready to burst through that gate. And I think this spring is going to be a really powerful spring for us, collectively and individually. But we have to do the purification first. We have to cleanse. We have to clean up our house. And it's that deep emotional house, right? Do the work. Go deeper. That's what this month is calling us to do. So, we get this energy now as the moon and comes into conjunction with Chiron in Aries. But we're getting this interesting sextile now between this energy, Saturn on the one hand and Mars on the other, right? Which are in trine with each other now. Which, this is good because, Mars has been part of this square energy with all these Aquarian planets over the course of the last month or so, which has been tough. And Mars is going to be moving forward all year long. There was a lot of energy in 2021, a lot of ability to get things done this year. So if you can buckle down and do it, and this is a trigger, right? Mars and Saturn. Saturn is setting the limits, setting the boundaries, forcing us to be disciplined, inviting us to change our approach with that Aquarius energy, but getting this Mars stimulation from Gemini, the idea, the communication, the expression, that self-expression is really going to get a boost towards the end of this Pisces cycle. So you can see, now we've where we started the month with all that square energy, now we've just got this, separating square here. This is going to be a theme all year. We're not going to come out of this all year. So this is something we're going to have to deal with and negotiate, this Saturn-Uranus square. But in general, you can see things are starting to lighten up with all these sextiles and trines. We'll just have a little bit more flowing energy as we move from Pisces and begin to get closer to the first day of spring and the spring equinox. Moving forward, the very last few days, we'll get that square with Mercury and Mars. So that could be a little bit of a challenge of hooking up what we think and how we act, right? The idea, and now we see that, you know, Mercury is now ingressed into the sign of Pisces, so it's starting to catch up with the Sun and Mercury, or the Sun and Venus, as it's starting to move faster too, coming from that station retrograde. It takes it a while to get momentum, but we're getting momentum, and our ideas are now having been infused by that conjunction with that Saturn and Jupiter. Really big ideas coming forth, and, you know, an idea, you know, an opportunity to put the idea Mercury into action, Mars. So we'll get this possibility if you can channel the idea, the big idea you had with Jupiter, and give it some juice with Saturn, with Mars in Gemini. I'm starting to lose my train of thought here. Sorry, guys. As we come to the last degrees and the end of Pisces season here, we're going to see the moon and Mars coming into conjunction with the North Node in Mercury in Gemini, opposing the South Node. Just a lot of mental focus, a lot of communication, a lot of words, a lot of information. I would expect that the media is going to be in a frenzy over this time. Something in the communications world will probably manifest itself in some way, and that's all getting squared from Mercury over here in Pisces. So information regarding something deep and transformational, something unconscious coming to light, both personally and collectively. I'm trying to keep the focus here more personal for you guys so that we can really get some takeaway from it. But of course, all of these symbols can be interpreted as collective, as national, as planetary, as global, right? All of the astrology works on all these levels simultaneously, which is why it's just such a beautiful art and science and a technology and a tool that we can use to navigate this world. So, you know, that takes us through to the 20th, and then we'll be into Aries season, the spring equinox, and the start of a new year. So really, this is all about, you know, how do we finish up this astrological year, this zodiacal year, this calendar, not the calendar year, but the solar year, right? That's what Pisces is calling us to do. Pisces season every year. That's the ritual, that's the routine, that's the rhythm. Of course, we've seen how this year is different than it was last year, different than the year before, different than next year, because all the planets are continuing to move. So no two Pisces seasons are ever exactly alike, right? There's the general theme of the sun in Pisces, but we can see how all of these other factors come in to qualify each of these particular solar seasons. So I hope that's been helpful. Would love to hear in the comments whether you like this approach more or less than the other ways that I've been doing it. Are you able to track along and follow the chart that I have on the screen? What would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? I'm really earnestly interested in getting your feedback so that I can make these videos as useful and helpful and insightful for you guys out there so that you can get the most out of every season and every chart reading that we do together. As always, I would appreciate it if you find this video interesting or helpful, that you like and maybe subscribe to the channel, and maybe click the notification button so that you can get alerted as to all the videos that I do release. As I said, I'm working on one on the Saturn-Uranus cycle. That is the big theme for 2021. I should have that in another week or so. But, you know, thanks for watching. I'm happy to have spent this time with you. I hope that you all have a happy and healthy and safe Pisces season this year. Do the work, go deeper, stay hopeful, stay optimistic. There's something something ready to be born for all of us on the horizon right around the corner. And I think we're going to start to get a glimpse of that as this year progresses. So we'll look forward to that journey together. All right, till next time, Sat Nam, everyone.